We're now going to use the computation formula for the sample standard deviation to find the standard deviation of the same data set that we found in the last video. So in the last video, we used the definition formula, and the mean didn't come out evenly, so the table was a lot messier, but we were still able to use the table, plug it in, and get the standard deviation. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to use the computation formula, which is going to involve just getting the sums here, the sum of x, the sum of x squared, and n. Those are really the only three numbers here that we need, and we're going to plug them into this formula and then calculate the sample standard deviation. So the sum of x, if you remember, this is just adding them up. And in this case, that was 28. Okay, now the sum of x squared, what you're doing is you're going to be squaring each value individually. And then you're going to add up the squares. So that'd be like 81 plus 9 plus 25 plus 1 plus 36 plus 16, and then we're going to add those up. We're adding up the squares. Okay, so 81 plus 9 plus 25 plus 1 plus 36 plus 16. Looks like I get 168. 168. So the sum of x is 28, the sum of x squared is 168, and then it looks like my n, which is just the number of values, that's just 6. Okay, so these are the three numbers that go into this formula. Okay, this first one, the sum of x squared, that's the 168. Okay, so this is, remember, this is squaring them first and then adding them up. And then this one is adding them up and then squaring it. And when I add them up, I get 28. So I'm going to take 28 and then square that. And I'm going to divide that by 6. I'm going to divide that by n. And then I'm going to divide all that by 6 minus 1. And then I'm going to take the square root of that. And then when you do this, when you put it in your calculator, just do this in 3 steps. Okay? Do the top, hit equals, divide by the bottom, hit equals, and then take the square root of the answer, and then hit equals. So the top is this portion. And it's very straightforward, 168 minus 28 squared divided by 6. You don't need any parentheses or anything like that, because you actually want it, when you look at this, you want it to square the 28 first and then divide and then subtract. And that's exactly the order the calculator is going to do it, because the calculator follows the order of operations. So I hit equals, and that's what I get, 37.3 repeating, which is the same as this number on the table. Okay, but this number has some rounding error, and you can see here that it is a little bit of error, because if I rounded this to 2 decimal places, I would have gotten 37.33, but this ended up being 37.34. So it actually brought in some error there. But it wasn't enough to change the final answer, which you'll see here. So I've calculated the top, and now I'm going to, that's this first step, now I'm going to divide by 5, so the bottom, 6 minus 1 is 5, and then I'm going to hit equals, that gives you the variance, and then I'm going to take the square root of the answer, and then hit equals, and I get the standard deviation, 2.7. Okay, and that is the same, in this case, the same as I got here. So the rounding error wasn't enough to affect the final answer, but it can be, especially if you have lots of values. Okay. So let me show you again. So I'm going to do the top, 168 minus 28 squared divided by 6. Hit equals. Divide by the bottom, which is 5. Hit equals. Take the square root of the answer. Hit equals. And I get the standard deviation, 2.7. And that is the computation formula. It's actually a lot easier, and it's even more accurate. You don't have the rounding error.